Boxing is the theater of the unexpected. And have we come to a point where some things are going to be revealed and some people are going to be extremely disappointed? Such may be the case when the exhibition between Gervonta Tank Davis and Jake Paul takes place on November 14th on Netflix. This is something that the Tank Davis supporters are gung-ho about, but there's an underlying situation that is brewing here, and they better hope that their guy comes out on top, because I'm telling you, if it goes bad, like being forecast in an article for Boxing News 24, boxing may never be the same again. Let's talk about this situation. What could be brewing and what can be done to stave off the subject at hand. Tank Davis has been in fights in boxing, but a lot of his matches haven't been of the ilk that true aficionados would like to have him in to see exactly where his skill set lies and where he may rank amongst what the best the sport has to offer brings to the table as far as competitiveness. He has since elected to go a different route with his career. He basically has said that he wants to get in and out. He wants to make his money and retire. And there's nothing wrong with that. So his upcoming bout with Jake Paul, an alleged exhibition that'll take place in November on Netflix, is his cash out plan. But is it really? Now, according to an article in Boxing News 24, the day Jake Paul overtakes Canelo, what happens when Netflix crowns a YouTuber the king of boxing? You see, in that title, written by someone credited by the name of Ali Campbell, the Jake Paul versus Gervonta Davis exhibition clash on November 14th on Netflix has a real possibility of surpassing the 41 million global viewing numbers that the expensive Canelo Alvarez versus Terence Crawford event pulled in on that platform just last month in September. The 41 million benchmark. Imagine how it would look if Jake's fight with Gervonta brings in far more viewers than the 41 million global viewers on Netflix that Alvarez's clash against Crawford drew. It would be an eye-opening and embarrassing situation at the same time. I agree with that sentiment because we're trying to build boxing. We're not trying to build the sideshows. We're not trying to build the novelty acts. But yet and still, someone like Davis is allowing himself to be pulled into that direction. You see, he could have faced the likes of, again, rematches, options on his table with the likes of Isaac Pitbull Cruz. You see, when he fought Cruz the first time, it was alleged that maybe he had injured one of his hands and therefore couldn't stop Cruz like he had stopped many others. And Cruz clamored for a rematch. And Gervonta, who was feeling himself at that time, kind of kept Cruz at bay. Didn't show any interest in facing the young man in a rematch. I wonder why. Is it because Cruz actually gave a greater account of himself during that match? I am more likely to believe that's exactly what it was. And see, when it comes down to the likes of Paul, there's a built-in excuse. He's a bigger man. This was only for the money. My mind and my heart and spirit weren't in it, so forth and so on. But see, Paul, who's an opportunist, like the colonizers that have come before him, has found an angle to make his hay. And against Gervonta is prime time. You see, the message would suggest, the article goes on, that Jake Paul should have been used as Canelo Alvarez's opponent, not Crawford. The numbers would have likely been far greater. Moreover, Canelo's star would still shine brightly afterward due to the likelihood of winning. Turkey would come out ahead because not only would the event have been massive on Netflix, but the last two fights that Canelo has had on his contract with Riyadh Season would likely attract more interest than they do now, given that he has lost to an older Crawford. You see, the article is angled. I must point that out, because what we've seen with the Canelo and Crawford fight were two of the best fighters in the sport, both having undisputed rankings. And regardless of the separation between age and weight class, it was the best fighting the best. You see? Now, because Crawford made it appear to be easier than anticipated, it speaks to the degree and level of his personal ascension in the sport, more so than it being a fraud or a flop or something that didn't entertain or even make money, because it did. 41 million is a huge audience. Not since the likes of when Ali fought, I believe it was Spinks at the Superdome. But this is the whole thing. Because Jake Paul is a YouTuber and has a massive following in the social media age, and Tank Davis is massively sought out on social media because of his alleged tweets and removal of tweets, that these two seem to have an audience of what we call the modern day social fast food media like. This is what happens with these people. But that doesn't guarantee that you're going to see quality. It's still a novelty act. And this isn't even Tank jumping weight classes to beat a better fighter or a fighter on his level. This is, as they stated when they were looking for a site to hold and host this match, this is a money grab for both. Which is another reason why I'm not into promoting it, but I had to say something about this article, because Tank Davis doesn't realize what's on the line here. And I don't think he really cares. But if Jake Paul is victorious here, he's going to make Davis look extremely bad. And I don't believe that Davis cares, which is a problem because he should have sought out his rematch with Lamont Roach. Win, lose, or draw, that fight would have given him something more revealing about not only his own personal legacy, but there would have been respectability for his name. You see, he's going down a dangerous slope here, similar to Jermell Charlo, who faced Canelo Alvarez a couple of years ago after jumping a couple of weight classes to challenge Canelo when he was the undisputed super welterweight champion, instead of facing the likes of Terrence Bud Crawford, which would have given him a one division separation between two undisputed champions, welterweight and super welterweight. A built-in story that the Charlos are acquainted with Bud, but Mel has some kind of disagreement going on behind the scenes, and Mel had a close relationship with stablemate at the time, Errol Spence Jr. You see, so with that type of built-in narrative, there would have been a lot of heat drawn to them facing one another. Just like it could have been for Tank going in against a rematch with WBA super featherweight champion that he pulled up from that division to face in Lamont Roach. The fight ending in a draw when it should have been really scored in favor of Roach, creating built-in storyline and controversy that these two men could have come together and faced one another in a rematch to settle all things final. But no, Tank couldn't resist bailing on our beloved sport of boxing, going for the likes of Paul. Now, Paul, like I said, as with most colonizers, is an opportunist, and he is looking to do something with this fight, if nothing more than to embarrass Gervonta Tank Davis. The article goes on. The YouTuber turned boxer Jake Paul isn't viewed in the same light as Crawford and Canelo in terms of his boxing ability and achievements in the sport. But if his viewing numbers for his exhibition match crush those of the September 13th event on Netflix, it's going to send a message about who the true global star of boxing is. It's not Canelo, and certainly not Crawford. Paul would be the king of the sport. The promotional budget for the Paul Davis fight is likely to be a fraction of the gazillions that Turki Al-Sheikh poured into the advertising of Canelo Crawford event on September 13th. Those two received enormous purses for what Turki labeled the fight of the century. Jake Paul versus Gervonta Davis will be fighting on November 14th, 2025 at the Kaseya Center in Miami, Florida. In comparison to the money poured into creating the Canelo Crawford event, the Paul Davis event isn't expected to have that kind of budget thrown into it. With Jake's ability to market his fights through sound bites and his massive social media following, he doesn't need the same promotional push to get fans interested in tuning in on Netflix to watch. Now, this is what I want to say about those specific remarks regarding what Jake needs and doesn't need. Jake is a social media personality. His audience and following is always going to be separate from those who really tune into the sport of boxing. And I guarantee you that the following that Jake has for when he steps in the ring will not have an overabundance of true boxing aficionados. The sport has been around for 200 years, and Jake isn't doing anything to make him the star of the sport. But what he is doing is finding certain names associated with the sport and embarrassing and tarnishing their position, respect, dignity, and legacy, all for himself to be able to absorb those very virtues. And see, this is why a true fighter shouldn't even entertain the thought of trying to get in the ring with him. It was Turkey who convinced Canelo not to go through with that situation when Jake was throwing that loop out at Canelo for an opportunity to have an exhibition with him. Imagine someone from social media trying to challenge the great Muhammad Ali, and Ali saying, okay, let's do this. No. Ali understood what his place was in the sport and what he represented and what he meant to the people outside of the sport. To be a people's champion, you walk a certain way and within a certain light of respect. Paul doesn't do this because he respects the sport. He has realized that there are people within the sport who are willing to capitalize and compromise virtues, ethics, and legacy for a bag. And see, it's like the movie Indecent Proposal. Where do your loyalties lie? If you're a person of dignity and respect, that's what you fight for every day of your life until your dying breath. But if you're a cash out, sell out, clown, you take him up on his offer and hope, unlike Judas, you can run away with your dinero without having your guts spilled across the plain. This is Stormy B-Man. Shout out to the mighty LDBC and Liberated Perspective, a third eye view of the world. For more content such as this, please like, comment, subscribe, and share. Let me know what your thoughts are about this situation between Jake Paul and Gervonta Tank Davis. Do you feel that the novelty of an exhibition is greater than the display of what the sport has to show and offer? Leave comments and let's discuss further. Peace to everyone out there, and everyone please remain safe.